The Raven was the roller coaster that put Holiday World on the map. From 2000 to 2003, it was named the best wooden roller coaster in Amusement Today's Golden Ticket Awards. While Holiday World has built bigger and wilder wood coasters, Raven is still an important part of the park and a great coaster in its own way, and I'll explain why in this review. Holiday World opened back in 1946. This Indiana theme park always had charm, but for their first 5 decades, they didn't have a unique or original coaster. That all changed in 1995. The park hired Custom Coasters International, or CCI, to build a wood coaster. This company had previously built 4 other coasters, including Hoosier Hurricane at the nearby Indiana Beach. The Raven opened in 1995 to rave reviews. Many coaster enthusiasts anointed it as the world's best wood coaster, with its popularity peaking in the late 1990s and early 2000s. I already mentioned the 4 first-place finishes in the Golden Ticket Awards, but it also placed in the top 5 of several Mitch Hawker wood coaster polls in its first decade of operation. More importantly, it was a massive success for Holiday World. Not only did it make this theme park a destination for coaster enthusiasts, but it dramatically grew attendance with locals, and it led to Holiday World's explosive growth. Without this ride, we likely would not have gotten the park's 2 larger wood coasters in the Legend and the Voyage. This coaster also set the path for the amazing Hollywood Nights event. This event has run annually ever since 2006, and is widely considered to be the best coaster enthusiast event between the perks, hospitality, and the night rides. The event was a spin-off of the park's former Stark Raven Mad enthusiast event that ran until 2003, but more on that later. This coaster was also incredibly important for CCI. While their earlier coasters were great fits for the respective parks, none were highly ranked in annual coaster polls. The Raven demonstrated they could design a world-class layout, and CCI became the premier wood coaster manufacturer for the next few years. So large parks such as Knott's Berry Farm hired them to build rides like Ghost Rider, but their affordable price tags made their designs accessible for smaller parks as well, leading to a bunch of family parks getting signature attractions. But back to the Raven. This coaster is placed in the Halloween section of the park. The name is an ode to the Edgar Allan Poe poem of the same name. There's no theming along the route, but that's fine because the setting is interesting on its own. Much of the layout travels through the woods. The only parts that are easily visible from guest areas are the lift hill from within the park, the first drop that runs alongside the parking lot, and the far turnaround against Lake Rudolph that can be seen from the campground. The entire second half is completely hidden from view, unless you're on a special walkback tour, which is one of the many perks of Hollywood Nights. This secluded setting also results in legendary night rides, as the course is almost entirely pitch black once the sun goes down. There are a few thematic touches though. The entrance is this nice looking gate, and the station is inside this 1800s Gothic house. Then the ride's red trains really pop, and they're decorated with the ride's awesome logo on the front and black wings on the sides. If you want to ride Raven, I strongly recommend doing so in the afternoon. Since this coaster is the closest major ride to the main entrance, many guests start their day with it. This leads to the ride having its longest wait immediately after park open. It is smarter to start with the coasters further back in the park. If you return to Raven in the afternoon, the ride is usually a walk-on most days, and the coaster will be running a bit faster as it warms up throughout the day. It is worth noting on busy days that Holiday World will close this ride's queue early, so the last train departs right at closing time, so plan accordingly if you want to finish with the Raven. This coaster has 2 PTC trains. Each train can accommodate up to 24 riders. Each train has 6 cars, each with 2 rows of 2. I usually see this coaster operating with just 1 train, but I have seen the park run 2 on busier summer days. If the park starts with 2 trains to accommodate that morning rush, and the ride becomes a walk-on in the afternoon, they have been known to run 1 full train and 1 train empty. This prevents the ride from going down to transfer the train off if crowds pick up later in the day. And it makes the lives of the operators easier because they don't have to tie down the restraints and extra seats each time. For the ride's first 10 years of operation, it only had a single train. The second train was added for the 2005 season. This required the final brake run to be reprogrammed and for a transfer track to be added on the approach to the lift hill. Another big change with this coaster was with the restraints. Originally, Raven had seat belts and buzz bars. The latter are single-position lap bars that rest several inches above the lap of most riders. This grants tons of room for negative Gs. But for much of its life, Raven has had individual ratcheting lap bars. These are far more restrictive, but they're fine for me. They're on par with most wood coasters out there. Staff members will not staple you per se, but they will push down so they're contacting your lap. Now back when Stark Raven Mad was offered by the park infamously allowed guests to set their lap bar as high as they'd like for the event. So many coaster enthusiasts happily took advantage of one-click rides. During the 2003 event, a coaster enthusiast was tragically ejected from Raven. Reports found no mechanical deficiencies with the train, and accounts stated the rider appeared to have been standing up. I don't blame the park for ending this practice because it lessens the chance for rider error and misbehavior. One other interesting tidbit about the trains is that Raven was used by the Gravity Group to test their new Timberliner trains. These were never intended to be used on Raven, but they were originally going to be used in the Voyage. But Holiday World ultimately opted to stick with the PTCs in all their wood coasters. When you reach Raven Station, you are free to select any row you'd like. Sometimes the park will have a grouper there early in the day before the water park opens, but they'll almost always honor row requests. With Raven, I almost exclusively ride in the back row. That is the best place by far to experience this ride's airtime. If you sit in the second row of a car, you will get a bumpier ride though. This is because your seat is directly above the wheels. As of the 2024 season, there are some very noticeable jolts in Raven's second half, but based on Holiday World's history, this will be fixed for the 2025 season. In general, whenever a section of one of their wood coasters gets rough, it's almost always retracked for the following season. This has happened with Raven specifically in the past. Once checked, you roll out of the station, you pass through the aforementioned transfer shed, and then you ascend the 80-foot or 24-meter tall lift hill. You can't see too much of the park due to all the trees. You just see the nearby kids area and the parking lot. Oh, and all those flags alongside the lift. Holiday World loves their flags. Once at the top, you have a slow turn to the right. Then the action begins. Raven kicks things off with a straight drop. If you're in the very back row, this offers a good pop of airtime. For whatever reason, it is noticeably weaker even if you sit just one row forwards. It's an odd behavior that most coasters do not exhibit. At the bottom, you fly into a wooden tunnel. This has a continuous downward slope, so the ride just keeps on building up more speed. This leads into an L-turn. Everyone gets a little airtime on the ascent. Afterwards, there's a minimally banked turn to the right, offering nice laterals. Then there's a decent-sized drop giving an abrupt and usually strong ejector pop in the back rows. Next is a small rise, offering a pinch of airtime in the front. Then you have the picturesque banked turn against Lake Rudolph. This is not only scenic, but it offers good sustained laterals for all. This is one part that's gone shaky in the past, but the park retracted a few seasons ago, so it's riding fine as of this recording. This transitions into a left turn, offering some decent laterals. Then there's a small dip. This gives a little airtime in the back if the coaster is running fast, but it is inconsistent. Then you have an underbanked turn up and to the left. This offers good laterals, especially towards the front. This leads into Raven's signature moment, the famous fifth drop. Earlier, I mentioned this ride's secluded setting. Well, it's also a terrain coaster, and this is a surprisingly large 6-story plunge. This is one of my favorite drops on any coaster. It offers amazing ejector airtime in the rear rows. You are forcibly flung into your restraint. This starts the ride's second half, which feels completely out of control. From this point forward, you are hauling. The speed is amazing anyway, but it's accentuated by all the trees surrounding you on all sides. This part is especially epic at night because you cannot see any of it. After the fifth drop, there's this S-bend. This was added to minimize the loss of trees. Not only was this environmentally beneficial, but it also offers some nice lateral jolts as well. This leads into a wide rightward turn. With all the speed, you get great sustained laterals here. Next is an elongated S-hill. It offers some weightlessness over the top, but it's more about the laterals. The directional changes throw you side to side. This element in particular was the roughest in 2024. Then you continue banking upwards and to the left, continuing the strong dose of laterals. You then slam into the brakes, which gives you a chance to catch your breath after that wild finale. You then return to the station, ending the 2,800 foot or 850 meter long coaster. The biggest complaint with the Raven is that it's short. While the overall track length is solid for a coaster of its stature, the ride feels like it ends prematurely because you hit that final brake run with so much speed. The coaster easily could have gone on for another several elements, but CCI and Holiday World decided to end with a bang. But that ties into the next item, the pacing. Raven's second half is absolute perfection. It's a crazy sequence. The first half is solid, but it is noticeably weaker if you're towards the front of the train. So, what would I rate the Raven? I would give this coaster an 8 out of 10. This is a great coaster. I love this coaster's wooded setting. And the second half is absolutely incredible between the airtime on the fifth drop and the aggressive turns. If the entire ride was like that, it would have easily scored higher. The reasons it did not score higher are the shorter length, the few rough patches, and because you really need to be in the back to maximize the airtime. It is worth noting my score also reflects day rides. This coaster likely earns an extra point if you ride it at night. It makes that much of a difference because you are blindly ragdolled about, and I mean that in a good way. Now, as good as Raven is, it's just the third best wood coaster at this park. That's more a testament to how good Holiday World's newer two wood coasters are. They are larger, wilder, and significantly longer, but Raven is still well worth checking out, and its significance to the amusement industry cannot be overstated. So those are my thoughts on Raven at Holiday World. What are your thoughts on this wood coaster? Are you a fan of this ride? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.